Anyone who's bought a haunted house knows never to sleep in the master bedroom the first night, but when I saw dark red liquid seeping from the wardrobe, that wasn't blood at all, it was death paint mixed from 27 chemicals by the previous owner. I was touched by human kindness, but she mysteriously warned me never to open the wardrobe after midnight. A blood-stained diary fell from the peeling wall, recording my death prediction lying in the balcony flowerpot. Then the security camera suddenly turned. It started 3 months ago when anti-scalper agent Xiao Liu contacted me about a nice property she had. I happened to have some unexpected money too. Bro, this house is so cheap, don't you wonder what happened here? Xiao Liu asked me suspiciously. I said whatever happened didn't matter as long as the price was right. Of course I knew cheap meant something was wrong, but it was always one of a few things: either someone died. But none of it mattered to me, because I'm a materialist who doesn't believe in weird stuff. Still, I should warn you, a woman killed herself here before, and her death was reportedly bizarre. I got interested. Apparently she bought a huge flower pot for the balcony, took sleeping pills, then buried her head in the pot. Wearing green clothes and red shoes, from afar she looked like a giant plant. But I laughed inwardly, figuring it was a rumor. People have survival instincts, after all. The renovation was decent, so I kept most things, but on moving day I learned most people on the same floor and even the same unit had moved out, so I basically got the whole floor for the price of one apartment. One other person lived on the floor. Around 9 p.m. a missy brought me a plate of dumplings. I learned she lived right across from me. She came to say hi, seeing someone move in, and also to warn me. She hesitated, then spoke again. What is it? I asked curiously. Strange noises come after midnight, she said quietly, as if afraid of being overheard. I got even more curious. Yes, miss, he said, reaching out her hand. Like this, scratching the wall. She then hurried back home looking flustered. Someone died here, so be careful. Her words made me more curious. I decided to investigate. So I devoured the dumplings, washed my feet, locked all doors and windows, then sat on the living room sofa. But moving and unpacking had worn me out. Before hearing the sound, I fell asleep. I jolted awake at around midnight. The sound came from the kitchen. A cup had fallen off the cabinet and shattered. I clearly remembered all cups were neatly arranged. They shouldn't have fallen. My back went cold. Could something really be in this house? A strange sound rang out. Listening closely, I recognized it. That was what Missy described. The sound came from the bedroom. I rushed in and it stopped abruptly, but the wardrobe that had been shut was now open. Bloodstains smeared across the floor. I grabbed clothes from that wardrobe before showering. Those stains definitely weren't there. At that moment, I couldn't help feeling scared while examining the bloodstains. The wall behind them was hollow. I found tools and broke open the hollow section inside the wardrobe. The notebook had been sitting there for a while, covered in dust. As I wiped it off, a strange yet familiar smell hit me. It was a banned substance. If inhaled in excess, your body goes limp and weak. I instinctively raised my hand to cover my nose, but in a flash I abandoned that thought. If all this was staged by someone, that person might still be hiding somewhere in my home. If their goal was just to make me find this notebook, they probably wanted me to read its contents. If they notice ID caught on, I might be in danger, so I froze my hand midair, trying not to inhale the powder while not looking suspicious to whoever was watching. I did this for another reason too. What did they really want? After brushing off the powder like dust, I quickly moved to another spot. I kept going and opened the notebook. The first page nearly scared me out of my wits. The drawing showed exactly what Xiao Liu had described: bizarre death of a woman who killed herself in this house. She really looked like a giant potted plant. The balcony where she died was my balcony. I couldn't help glancing over, staring straight at me. After calming myself down, I started flipping through. It was all handwritten text, like a diary. From the entries I could tell the date was just 1 day before her suicide on August 18th. Here's what the diary said. Today I saw him in the neighborhood. He must have discovered the truth and come for revenge. I'm so scared now. But I know with his intelligence and ability, if he's determined to find me, I have nowhere to run. He could even perfectly disguise a murder as suicide. After ruling out running, I thought about calling the police. But that felt wrong too. Today I turned and ran the moment I saw him. Probably didn't notice me. I couldn't shake it off if he wasn't coming for me, and I called the police rashly. But what if he really was after me? After much thought, I decided to record his crimes, so if he ever got me, I didn't use the computer because he was a tech whiz. If something happened to me, I must never let him discover my plan, so I hid this notebook. If you find it, please give it to the police. The one I mentioned earlier, he was my former neighbor, He Luoan. So we'll keep it brief. My name is Mo Tang Tang. When I was in college, my father fell seriously ill. To borrow 300,000, I made a deal with Zhu Yong, who was pursuing me at the time. As long as I agreed to be his girlfriend for 5 years, he'd give me 300,000 directly, but I never expected this deal. After living with him, I gradually realized he was extremely possessive and controlling. He wouldn't allow me to talk to other men, yet he fooled around himself. I brought up breaking up. Whenever something displeased him, he'd use the agreement to pressure me into paying him back. But I couldn't come up with 300,000 anytime soon, so I had no choice but to endure it. After graduation, he restricted my going out, though I couldn't stand it, thinking about the agreement expiring. I had to bear it alone, because I couldn't afford to pay him back, until He Luoan appeared. He Luoan moved in next door a year ago. That day he brought dumplings to introduce himself, since I lived alone and was bored. Over time, we gradually became familiar and then good friends. I also learned that's why he moved from another city to escape the pain, and I told him about my situation, saying men were no good, and he'd find a way to help me. I thought he was just trying to comfort me. But who knew he'd actually take action? At first, He Luoan only secretly messed with Zhu Yang when he came to see me, or hacked the property system to make his elevator stop midair. But later, once he even made Zhu Yang tumble down the stairs and break his arm. When I found out, I asked him. He gritted his teeth and said, "You shouldn't go easy on scumbags like that, or you'll only end up hurt." But I didn't dig deeper, thinking he'd become like this because of his own painful experiences. Seeing that Kiat was given to me by the neighbor across the hall half a year before He Luoan moved in. He said he was always forgetful and afraid of losing his key, so he left a spare with me. I suddenly remembered He Luoan never let me into his place. My curiosity spiked, so while he was away, the lock hadn't been changed, so I easily got into He Luoan's home. There I found a box, a news report about a suicide, and a city was He Luoan's hometown. Besides that, there was a small jar of white powder. It wasn't until I saw the photos pressed onto the porcelain jar that I realized it must be ashes. The photos showed a man hung upside down. The man's head was submerged in a transparent fish tank with goldfish around. The image was horrifying. He Luoan smiled eerily when saying this. The thought that He Luoan had killed this man surfaced. It took me a while to recover. I don't know how I managed to put everything back and return home. I originally planned to call the police, but thinking of how he'd taken care of me, I hesitated. Zhu Yang came over drunk, hitting and cursing me. After he left, he kidnapped Zhu Yang, saying he'd get rid of that problem for me. I strongly opposed it at the time. Someone like Zhu Yang won't let you go even when the agreement ends, only if he's dead. What He Luoan said, I had indeed thought about it, thinking of the days ahead. I felt miserable, so I nodded without thinking. You go back first, leave this to me. After He Luoan said this, he went home. 3 days later, the police came to my door. They only followed procedure, asked a few questions, and left. I don't know how He Luoan managed it. After Zhu Yang died, I regained my freedom, though I was grateful to He Luoan. He was a murderer. Being near him was like sitting on a time bomb, so I secretly fled to another city. I admit I share responsibility for Zhu Yang's death, and I was the biggest beneficiary. Now that I'm dead, I deserve it. He must not get away with it, so when you see this notebook, contact the police immediately. I read Mo Tang Tang's diary in one sitting. According to it, she was killed by this He Luoan. Mo Tang Tang was an accomplice in Zhu Yan's death. She didn't dare call the police for her own sake, but feared He Luoan would come after her. She thought if it were ever discovered, the truth would come to light. As for Mo Tang Tang's suicide, but when I closed the notebook, I saw the drawing on the first page again. Something felt off. If Mo Tang Tang was murdered, she couldn't have known how she'd die. Meaning someone drew that picture after her death. Who could it be? He Luoan sent Mo Tang Tang some dumplings, and my landlord a mess. He just sent me some too. The thought made my hair stand on end. Combined with everything that happened tonight, The more I thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Perhaps the person hiding in the shadows controlling all this. He first tampered with the dumplings, then came in after I fell asleep, and even cleaned up the bloodstains and the writing on the wall. But I had no grudge with him. Why would he do this? It couldn't be that he wanted me to expose his crimes. I glanced at the clock on the wall. About 10 minutes had passed since I found the diary, and 5 minutes remained before the drug took full effect. I quickly ran through every possibility in my mind, and finally decided to pretend to leave, because anyone who saw these things would be scared. I adjusted myself, stood up from the chair, and rushed out of the room in a panic. But as soon as I reached the living room, I noticed the TV that had been off was now somehow turned on. It was showing a surveillance feed, displaying the room I had just run out of. I instinctively stopped in my tracks. I breathed a sigh of relief inwardly. Everything I'd done was being watched. Good thing I hadn't revealed anything. It switched to a news broadcast. Yesterday at 5 p.m., police had pulled a floating corpse from the river. The victim was confirmed to be MS, he who drove her car into the river 2 days ago. I vaguely remembered this news. The authorities had also issued a consular notice. But why show me this news? Did it have something to do with Mo Tangtang? The screen froze on the news anchor, with the date displayed in the bottom right corner, August 21st. Only 3 days had passed, and the person involved was surnamed He. Could the dead person be He Yuan? I immediately felt the air around me turn cold, and goosebumps broke out all over my body. So who was the one hiding behind all this, controlling everything? Or was it not human at all? Impossible, those things don't exist in this world. So the moment that ridiculous thought appeared, I immediately shut it down. But if it was human, who could it possibly be? Definitely not an ordinary person, because the moment I suspected He Yuan, this person showed me the news that He Yuan was already dead. Just then, a wave of dizziness hit me. I stumbled 2 steps, though I could have actually kept my balance. So I just let myself fall to the ground. Only by playing Wii could I lure out the mastermind behind it all. Then I heard the sound of a key sliding into the lock of the front door not far away. It was the middle of the night, so it was dead silent. Like a worm burrowing into my body, it twisted around my heart. I both wanted to know who was behind that door. While waiting for the door to open, I took out my phone and pretended to call for help, only to find there was no signal at all. If someone was determined to get you, why would they let you contact the outside world? But who would do this to me? I hadn't seemed to offend anyone. Could it be about that incident? Click. But there was no one outside the door. Only the motion sensor light flickered as if it were broken. Staring at the empty doorway, I suddenly had the urge to flee. I had inhaled some drugs and felt exhausted. But maybe I could still escape. After all, this room might have been rigged up long ago. Staying here felt like being at someone's mercy. With that thought, I gritted my teeth and decided to take a gamble. Who's there? I called out toward the door. After 2 seconds of silence, slow footsteps finally approached. A person in full protective gear, wearing a hood and mask, completely covered from head to toe, walked in slowly. I saw the baseball bat in that person's hand and silently thanked my luck for dodging a bullet. I probably would have died from that bat, but who would have thought this person suddenly quickened their pace toward me? Once close, they swung down at me fiercely. I was someone whose whole body had gone limp from inhaling the drug. That phrase kept repeating in my head, so I clenched my teeth, stayed completely still, and closed my eyes. Because if he wanted me dead, he would have done it when I ate the dumplings and fell asleep. I breathed a sigh of relief inwardly, then slowly lifted my eyelids to look at the person towering over me. Whether I could really move or not was the same logic as leaving the door open for me to escape. Trying to call for help? He walked over and closed the door, then turned back to stare at the phone in my hand. After saying that, he reached into his pocket and waved it in front of my eyes, although I couldn't see this person's face, judging by the voice. I strained to act like someone completely powerless, reaching out to grab the signal jammer. MS. He seemed to have anticipated this move. It fell straight to the ground. Who are you? What exactly do you want? I had never known this MS. He before. I didn't understand why she would set up a trap for me to find that diary. MS. He didn't answer. She bent down, grabbed the back of my collar, and dragged me toward the middle of the living room. She dragged me with no effort at all, which was unexpected. After throwing me to the ground, she revealed her true face. She seemed to see my confusion and smiled. Because my boyfriend likes. Ex-boyfriend, I should say. After saying this, the smile on a mess. His face vanished instantly, as if mentioning him upset her. Although I had held my breath, I still inhaled a small amount of the drug, so my body remained somewhat weak. Juan, to make a mess, he believed I had inhaled enough drugs to be immobile, so she would completely let her guard down around me. Let the drug wear off, and I am also curious who this Missy really is. Uninterested, Miss, he gave me a contemptuous look, seemingly disappointed. You wouldn't be in this situation. Can't you satisfy my curiosity? I continued. She frowned slightly, flashed a sinister smile, and said, What? Damn, this woman was terrifying. She could see right through me. Could I escape by stalling? Missy squinted and smiled. I don't think that's possible. Without 5 hours, the drug won't wear off. The powder, I feigned terror, knowing the answer. It's not dust, it's a drug powder. After explaining, she glanced at the wall clock and added, Since you want to know, I'll tell you my story. Keeping it bottled up is painful. She sat on the sofa in a relaxed pose, as if telling an ordinary tale. A story, I thought, seeing her expression. So I listened to her story while planning my next move. In her tale, they went to college in the same city and worked there too. Ju Keeming's likes, Hee Yuan always accommodated. Hee Yuan didn't like it, but was willing to change for Ju Keeming. Likewise, he would try things for her sake. They loved each other and gave each other space. Still in the honeymoon phase, Hee Yuan thought they'd soon marry. But all those beautiful hopes shattered after Hee Yuan hacked into Ju Keeming's phone. She had studied with professional teachers, so her hacking skills were formidable. That time, she planned to give him a surprise birthday gift, but discovered a secret WeChat account on his phone. The chats and photos were obscene. Ju Keeming had been secretly having ambiguous affairs with many people. For 5 years, Hee Yuan had been cheated on. At that moment, she broke down. Instead, she planned to kill Ju Keeming. She had considered giving him a chance, but he never changed. She killed him in their room, staging it as a sudden illness. Who knew that Hee Yuan's kindness? Discovered his secret, then she treated him well, and was guided to kill Zhu Yang. Missy gritted her teeth here. Something felt off because Hee Yuan's kindness. Hee Yuan lied in his diary. He was truly wicked even in death. He was a wall of lies. My curiosity spiked. What do you mean? I asked. Zhu Yang wasn't a bad person at all. When he lent money to Mo Tangtang, he did sign an agreement, but his intention was just. He believed that after years together, he'd make Mo Tangtang see his worth and fall for him. She never wanted to be with Zhu Yang, only to squeeze benefits from him. She wanted her own place. She didn't want to work, so Zhu Yang supported her. Fearing she'd be unhappy, he rarely visited. She'd abandon him once the agreement expired. She'd be free, until he discovered Hee Yuan hated cheaters. He devised a plan, provoke Hee Yuan's anger and use her hands to kill Zhu Yang. All fabricated bruises Zhu Yang supposedly gave him were self-inflicted. Zhu Yang only ever argued. I verified all this later, no doubt. After hearing all this, I finally understood. In this story, Zhu Yang was the most innocent. Miss Hee's eyes held unspeakable sorrow and rage. Otherwise he wouldn't have been schemed against by Mo Tangtang. I froze, then realized, you're Hee Yuan. Who else? Then the news earlier. I was confused. Legally, Hee Yuan was dead, so no matter who died, no one would suspect a dead person. Hee Yuan smiled, sending chills down my spine. But what does this have to do with me? Why are you doing this to me? That's what I want to know. I don't want to die without answers. Hee Yuan said, still being cryptic at a time like this. I sneered. This notebook, I found it in Mo Tangtang's drawer after I killed him. Left for you to find. Why? I had a guess. Because I wanted to prove that even if Mo Tangtang's plan worked, he still couldn't beat me. Not to mention whoever found it would believe even if they called the police. Hee Yuan had already committed suicide. A murderous look crossed her face. So I'm just someone who stumbled into your plan, I guessed. Hee Yuan seemed surprised. Frowning, she asked incredulously, I really don't understand how you could avoid being caught. I trembled instinctively, flashes of images crossing my mind. But I deliberately avoided her gaze and said, I don't know what you mean. After hearing all those stories, I absolutely despise Jianan. Do I really need to remind you of what you've done? Staring at me as if trying to see through me, I finally knew for sure that He Yuan knew my secret. I came into a windfall, and that windfall was the accidental death insurance payout for my girlfriend. His family was long gone, and the beneficiary was my name. Since you can't remember, Missy continued when I stayed silent, 2 years ago, you bought a long-term accident insurance for your girlfriend. You must have loved her then. So you fought often, and she even broke up with you when you needed her most. That's when you thought of the insurance. You placed knockout drugs and tampered with the brakes. Stop talking. Because I knew if I kept listening, I'd break down too, after killing my girlfriend. But the thought of her leaving me drove me insane, so I'd rather she died. I really just wanted you to find this diary and see if Mo Tangtang's plan would work, but out of curiosity, I looked into you. So I tweaked the original plan and took the liberty of punishing Lai King, Lai Jianan for the world. He Yuan smiled and asked me, do you believe in karma now? Telling me everything means you really don't plan to let me go. That remark was both a sigh and a test. You don't still naively think I'll walk out of here alive, do you? He Yuan said confidently. I'm a murderer who killed 3 people. Actually, it should have been 4th that middle-aged man who jumped from Heming Apartments last month. Before you kill me, can you grant me one request? I felt my strength slowly returning. If I stalled a bit longer, I could fight back. He Yuan said coldly, I just want to know how you got Mo Tangtang and the others. Just to satisfy a dying man's curiosity, okay? I saw a pleading look in He Yuan's eyes. You do seem quite interested in this. Fine then, I'll indulge you. He Yuan walked into the utility room, brought out a stepladder, placed it on the balcony, and climbed up. This clothesline is sturdy, it can hold over 200 kilos. Hoisting you up would be more than easy. He tied a noose on the hanging end, then sat on the stepladder, slipped his foot in, and said, calculate the distance to the ground, and when the sleeping pills kick in, slip your foot in, that creates a self-hanging. Instinct will make you struggle, but the sedative makes it impossible. I'll handle the scene perfectly following these steps. Even the scattered dirt I'll make it flawless, because I've run many experiments. They'll just think the victim committed suicide. He Yuan seemed very pleased with his designs. Hearing all this, He Yuan's hacking skills were top-notch, his mind meticulous, his methods ruthless. No wonder Mo Tangtang was so terrified. He walked up to me. But getting you up there takes some effort. I have an idea, I said, looking at He Yuan. He Yuan was startled. How about I climb up myself? My drug's effects have mostly worn off. He Yuan frowned at this, a flicker of panic in his eyes, and at that moment, having long planned, I swung the baseball bat at him in a wide arc. He Yuan reacted fast, leaning back to dodge my strike while he pressed the electric shocker against me repeatedly. Caught off guard, my arm got zapped, and in pain, I dropped the bat. When He Yuan lunged at me again with the shocker, I grabbed a nearby cushion to block it, then seized his wrist. He Yuan was strong, but I had the edge. After a brief standoff, I finally pressed the shocker against He Yuan, and he collapsed to the ground, electrocuted. I was a bit puzzled, because the voltage wasn't that high enough to numb a body part at most. It shouldn't have kept him down, but I didn't overthink it and quickly found a rope to tie him up. How is that possible? The drug couldn't have worn off that fast. He Yuan stared at me in disbelief. Since you told me all those stories, I smiled and explained, if I'd inhaled the drug normally, it really couldn't have worn off that quickly. I recognized the smell right away, so I held my breath. You probably couldn't tell from the surveillance footage. I used that same drug in my ex-girlfriend's car, so of course I knew it. Blame your bad habit of reading others' diaries. Now it was my turn to deal with He Yuan. He probably never imagined his perfect plan would fail here. He asked me again. I could still fight and run. When the door opened earlier, why didn't you run? If someone saw an escape route, they'd bolt without hesitation. Honestly, I did consider it. I thought, maybe someone had noticed something wrong and came to get revenge on me. I wouldn't let anyone who knew about that incident leave. I explained, good thing you didn't run, I was waiting by the door with that baseball bat. I'd have bashed your head in and killed you before you knew it. He Yuan said this with an eerily strange smile. Now let me answer you. I don't believe it. I've always been a materialist, though his smile made me uneasy. He said in a victor's tone, "So what do you plan to do with me?" Ewan asked. "You're already dead, right? So no matter what I do to you, no one will ever find out." Ewan suddenly burst out laughing at my words. I didn't know why, but I felt like everything was going too smoothly. How could he fall so easily? But I no longer wanted to think about it, because the most important thing now was. After interrogating Ewan to death, I left him in the room, then searched all night until I found the hidden cameras. After deleting all the surveillance footage from the computer, I felt somewhat relieved. Next came the question of disposing of Ewan's body. It wasn't until I saw the huge hole in the floor-to-ceiling window that I got an idea. I spent many days inside the wall. Since mine was the only occupied unit on the floor, no one ever discovered any of it. I thought it was all over, until one night a week later, I received a message from a stranger. "First of all, congratulations, because by now I estimate you've already killed me and incompletely dead. But unfortunately, I'm not." 30 minutes before you got this message, the surveillance footage from Dangwon. Given how fast the police work, they should arrive soon. If you're going to run, go now. Like a tide about to drown me, I forgot Ewan was a hacker before I deleted those recordings. I jumped off the couch, ready to get out of there fast, but just as I stood up, "Anyone home?" I heard the voice like a pursuer's call, my feet frozen to the floor. I knew there was no escape, so I picked up my phone again and kept reading the unfinished message. "You know, ever since Kemen was killed by me, I've been tormented by nightmares every single night. It wasn't until I discovered your secret that I decided to take a gamble. I bet you'll see through my loneliness. I've thought about it. If it came to that, I'd give up resisting, because I didn't want to live in pain anymore." That night, all my confusion was finally resolved. It wasn't that I had beaten Ewan, rather, from the very beginning. I remembered something Ewan said to me that night. He said, "You don't still naively think." They were about to break the door down. Voices came from outside, but I didn't want to pay them any attention. The moon was bright and clear. I remembered my ex-girlfriend loved watching the moon, and suddenly I understood how Ewan felt. The banging continued, and I walked step by step toward the window, thinking,